chasing the wren in Ireland, a low country boil for the holidays, and Guinness with champagne. This week, we're celebrating Christmas around the world.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. Destination Eat Drink is for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, it's our annual Christmas episode from Ireland, Lima, Peru, London, and South Carolina. But first, I've got you set for your last-minute Christmas gift for the foodie traveler on your list. My Foodie Travel Guide ebooks to cities in Spain, Italy, France, and of course, here in Portugal are at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. Check out my new Lisbon ebook, updated for 2026. It's at Buy Me a Coffee as well. I love doing this episode every year of Christmas traditions around the world. There's so many different traditions, and in this episode, we enjoy some mulled cider, not wine, Christmas pudding, a Gullah Geechee feast, and we find out why Panettone is so popular in Peru. And I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Grania Lawler is the founder of Flavor Trails, a tour company that takes people to the best spots in Dublin and all over Ireland. She tells me about Christmas traditions on the Emerald Isle. So, Grania, welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. I did want to talk to you about Christmas traditions in Dublin and in Ireland. What can you tell me if we were to go there during Christmas? What would we see? What would we experience? And what kind of things do you like to do with your family?
I'm really glad you've actually asked the question in that context of people coming to visit, because I think that Christmas can be a little bit surprising for people when they book to come here over Christmas, because Christmas in Ireland is still extremely traditional. People go home and everything shuts down. So I don't want to discourage people from coming here during that period, but I do want to encourage people to really plan their trip if they're coming over the Christmas period, because on Christmas Eve in Dublin particularly, everything closes down in the early to late afternoon, and once it's closed, it's not opening again until what we call Stephen's Day, the day after Christmas. So you've got 48 hours where it's very, very quiet. So make sure and book a really great hotel that has a really great Christmas dinner on, because it's difficult outside of that. But other than that, it is a magical time to be in Dublin. The lights are on. There's so many, book into a choir, go see some choirs in St. Patrick's Cathedral or the National Concert Hall, get into the pubs. It's so festive. It's wonderful. And particularly if you're in Dublin on Christmas Eve, when everything shuts down, there's a wonderful tradition has started in the city centre where, our famous singers come out and busk at the top of Grafton Street, which is the main shopping area on the south side of Dublin. So, regularly we have Bono out there, Glenn Hansard, Hosier this year, Dermot Kennedy was out. So they do a busking session for the Simon community, which is a homeless charity in Dublin. And, hundreds of people stay in the city when, it sort of has deflated. The vast majority of people have gone home to their families, and people come out on the street and sing lots of Christmas carols. So that's a tradition that started, I want to say, in the last 10 years. It could be a little bit longer. And it's definitely, if you're staying in Dublin over that period, it's something to check out. The other kind of quirky thing, which is a very old tradition, happens on Stephen's Day. So St. Stephen's Day, I should say, but we all call it Stephen's Day in Ireland. In Britain, they call it Boxing Day. So Christmas Day is over, and next day we want to get out of the house, get away from our families for an hour, and meet up with the communities. And there's it's almost like a pageant these days. It's called Chasing the Wren. So the Wren Boys come out, and it's really famous over in Dingle and Kerry, but it does happen in other places around the country. Galway do it, and out where I live in Kildare, out in Donadee Forest Park, there are Wren Boys there as well. So the tradition was that the day after Christmas, on St. Stephen's Day, the men and the boys would dress up in really old clothes. They paint their faces and they wear these really unusual straw hats. They almost look like walking straw bales walking around the town. And the idea was they would go into the forest and chase the wren, who was known as the king of the birds in Ireland. And he got that title for being a little bit disloyal, a little bit sneaky, as in he betrayed the Irish and betrayed St. Stephen. So St. Stephen was a martyr. And when he was being chased down, the wren sort of alerted the soldiers to where he was, and he was executed. In Ireland, it's that he alerted a Viking army to an Irish army coming to sort of throw them out of Ireland, but he alerted them, and the plan was foiled. So these men go out and of course, back in the day, they chased an actual wren. They don't do that anymore, but they display sort of decorated wrens on sticks and shillelaghs, and they parade the wren through the town, singing and dancing and collecting money. And the money that was collected was for a big party. So
Of course.
It's a really weird, unusual, very unique pageant that happens here on St. Stephen's Day. So for people visiting, I think they're the things I'd encourage them to go out. For us at home, it's very much about Santa Claus coming. We believe St. Nicholas is buried in Ireland. So yeah, we've quite close connection there to St. Nick. And it's very much about family. It's very much about the full Irish breakfast early in the morning, and then late afternoon, the turkey, the ham, the roast potatoes. There's 17 different types of potatoes, cooked in every single way. Loads of gravy and great vegetables, and Christmas cake, plum pudding. What you imagine to be a very traditional Christmas still is here for us. And we stay at home and we watch Christmas movies.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, that is such a good question. Probably the old Miracle on 34th Street, the old version.
That's a good one, yeah. I grew up watching It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know if that's popular in Ireland or not, which
absolutely.
I loved it. But in the last, I don't know how long this movie's been out, but in the last 15 years or so, I've been converted. And now the one we watch every Christmas season is Elf with Will Ferrell, which is so funny. It's so good.
Well, we actually ran where our shop is based is in a 250-year-old city Georgian mansion, and it was 250 years old last year. So for Christmas, we ran a big celebration, and it was owned by Lord and Lady Powerscourt. So some of our tour guides are actors, and they were dressed up as Lord and Lady Powerscourt. But one of our actors, he's about 6'4", and we had him dressed up as Elf running around the city mansion, and it was great fun. I don't know, the parents certainly enjoyed it. I'm not sure if the kids enjoyed it as much as we did.
Will Ferrell is so funny. Last year, around Christmas time, he dressed up as Elf, like in real life, and went to a professional hockey game. And he's sitting there with his family dressed as Elf, except it was Elf like after hard times. So he's smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer and everything. You're like, oh, Elf made some bad life decisions, man.
I love it. That's brilliant.
Joseph Rosendo is a travel legend whose new show, Steppin' Out, is airing on PBS and the PBS app. Joseph tells me about a Gullah Geechee Christmas in South Carolina. What was your inspiration for going to South Carolina for a holiday show?
Well, actually, we were in Myrtle Beach on the what they call the Grand Strand. So we covered the communities along the Grand Strand. And, we always love to go to places where people think are one way. And Myrtle Beach is famous for its Ferris wheels and its 60 miles of beach and 50 golf courses and a whole bunch of miniature golf courses and pancake houses, and it has that kind of vibe. But there are many other things to Myrtle Beach, and certainly through the communities along the Grand Strand, and what it really has to offer is many different cultures and many different people, because most everybody who lives in that area was from somewhere else. They came for a vacation, ended up staying, for good. And there's also, very interestingly enough, the Gullah Geechee culture, which is African American culture that developed prior to the Civil War in the rice fields of South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, particularly all the way down to Georgia. And so a group of African Americans developed and their community and their cultures off the coasts of these islands, the barrier islands off the coast and in the area, because basically driven by the fact that they were from West Africa and they were immune to malaria. And malaria was one of the diseases that were flourishing in rice fields. You can imagine all the water, along with snakes and all the other things that the slaves had to contend with. And so the Africans were surviving that, and the white guys weren't doing so well. So they were left to their own devices, and in that way they were left to develop their own cultures. So they have their own language, they have their own foods, and some of them you would consider to be Southern specialties that you might know, fried chicken and black-eyed peas and things like that. But they have a very strong community and a very strong spiritual community too. And so we went for Christmas, and we're looking for two things. We're looking for what said Christmas and what says Southern. And we had the opportunity to see that with the Gullah Geechee culture and with the people in the Southern people, the Southerners, what you would call, the Southerners. We had a shrimp boil, or they call it low country boil, which in our case was shrimp and corn and all sorts of other wonderful things. That was all spread out on the table, and everybody just sat around and ate with their hands. And so we had some of the cultural traditions of the South, coupled with the traditions of the people who live in the Myrtle Beach and a Grand Strand area. And so it's a kind of experience, kind of American experiences we like to capture. We like to introduce people to something to aspects of a destination that they wouldn't expect. We do that most everywhere we go, but when we're traveling in the United States, we particularly try to do that, to show that even traveling in the United States, you can have a foreign experience, and so it's foreign to your everyday life experience. And so that's why we went there, and it's going to be a great show. It's my editor, who's edited all 8 shows of season 2, says it's her favorite show. She loved, and she's Jewish, and we're celebrating Christmas, and she said, and she loved watching the show and the Christian elements that we brought into the show, because it is Christmas. And so we captured the whole combination of everything, the cultures and everything. And so I'm real pleased how it turned out.
John Moreland is the brains behind Liquid History Tours, a tour company that mixes history with the best beverages in London. He tells me about Christmas cheer in his city. John, I want to talk about Christmas in London. We all have this beautiful Victorian picture of Christmas in London. I don't know if it's still like that or not, but I did want to ask you, what is Christmas like in London? And specifically, what are the traditional things that we drink in London for Christmas?
Christmas in London is still magical. We have visitors from all over the US and other parts of the world, and they say it is now as good, if not better, than being at home, or even cities like New York, where we have the ice skating rinks in Somerset House, the big trees of Trafalgar Square and other destinations. And the pub comes into its own. The fires are on, it's warm. A traditional drink, other than our beers and ciders, would of course be a mulled wine with your cinnamon sticks and star anise and a little bit of sugar. I actually quite enjoyed a mulled cider as well. So a little bit at the end of the season, where those apples have come off the tree, been stored for a couple of months, and then just fermented down into something warm and nourishing. But of course, the Christmas season is also a celebration for all manner of things. So I personally enjoy a visit to the oldest restaurant in London. It is called Rules. And there you can either have a pint of Guinness or a pint of the cask ale London Pride, and it is served in silver tankards. It is a restaurant seen in the James Bond films. And if you really want to treat yourself at Christmas, go for a Churchillian Black Velvet, which is Guinness and champagne. And that, for me, is Christmas in a tankard.
Wow. I would never think of putting Guinness and champagne together, but I think I'm going to have to try that this Christmas. That sounds amazing. Is this a very popular drink, or is it just at this one place?
You can get it in a few places. It's very traditional. It's very opulent. It's served in more of the historic hostelries. And I personally would only drink it at Christmas because it's rich in every sense. But Christmas, that's what it's for. That little bit of indulgence, and a black velvet is well worth having your name on.
And you mentioned mulled cider. This is something else that I never considered before, but you think about it, apples would go, how many desserts do you have with apples and spices in them? So it would make sense. Is mulled cider the same as mulled wine in the way that we put the spices in there and kind of heat them up and allow them to infuse into the liquid?
Yeah, correct. It is literally probably a cider, the addition of maybe some extra apple juice, a little bit of sugar, slightly different spice selection a lot of the time, but it can often add a lighter, buttery tone. Sometimes a mulled wine is dark and maybe a hint of whiskey, but I love walking into a pub and smelling the mulled wine, smelling the sort of mulled cider. In some pubs, you have a little bit of eggnog and maybe some Christmas cocktails to enjoy as well. But yeah, no, mulled cider, very easy to do, very delicious, and something slightly different.
So I'm having mulled wine, mulled cider, black velvet. I better have some food with this. What's your favorite Christmas food to have?
You have to just go the Christmas pudding for dessert and the mince pies. That's the nice thing at Christmas, is you might find just a mince pie in a few pubs being served. Or, of course, cheese. Cheese. That goes very nicely with that mulled cider. And, of course, Britain is home to hundreds, if not thousands, of some of the best unpasteurized cheese suppliers in the world. So from your Stiltons to your Cheddars to your soft Hunworths, have a nice little cheese plate, maybe that black velvet, finish off with a mulled cider, and then it's time for a lie down by the fire.
I think. Well, John Warland from Liquid History Tours, Merry Christmas to you. And you're the guys who literally wrote the book on pubs, so we're going to have a link to your book. If folks are going to London, they have to check out this book because it's going to tell you, the best places to go and the best things to drink, whether it's Christmas or other times of the year. Thanks for being back on the show. It's great to catch up with you.
Thanks a lot, Brent, and have a great Christmas.
Samantha Lewis is the brains behind Lima Gourmet Company, a food tour company in the culinary capital of South America. She tells me about some surprising Christmas traditions in Peru.
Christmas is one of my favorite holidays, and celebrating Christmas in Lima is quite particular. One of the things that is most different, I suppose, is that it hits us right in summertime.
Yes.
So summer, it's like hot out, you have Santa, but Santa's suit hasn't really been, or the Christmas vibe, you still have pine trees and this allusions to snow and Santa out there in a Santa suit. And so to see this all together, like with a beach vibe, is really curious, really fun, and really special. So Christmas in Lima is something very different in that sense, but very fun, very festive, and everyone gets in on it and participates.
When you were describing this, Sam, I was thinking about when we lived in Hawaii. And, the weather's basically the same all year round because you're close enough to the equator. But the Santa, they'd have the big Santas, like the statues and the blow-ups and stuff like that. And Santa would be in his jammers, giving the shaka, hang loose with Santa. So stuff like that. And then when I talk to people in like New Zealand or Australia, they say the same thing. It's like, hey man, it's summer. We're out, we're barbecuing, during Christmas time.
Exactly.
What would some of the traditional foods that we would eat around Christmas time in Peru?
Yeah, so Christmas, we celebrate it on the 24th, and then, we eat a late dinner. Everyone gets together on Christmas Eve, and then we wait until midnight, and this is when, the presents arrive, the festivities come in, the fireworks go off, and the champagne comes out. As far as the meal, it's quite similar. It's like an American Thanksgiving. You have your turkey, you have your ham, you have your potato salads and your cold salads, fresh applesauce. And then one of the differences, even though it's summer and warm out, we generally end the meal with hot chocolate. So it ends with hot chocolate and then panettone. So panettone, we're going to flying off the shelf, the highest consumption of panettone in December. It's wild. So that's also incorporated in the Christmas meal. And after everyone finishes up, you have your hot chocolate and your panettone. That's what that looks like.
Because when we talked last time, Sam, you talked about the Italian migration from northern Italy to Peru. And panettone is I think it's from Milan, if I'm not mistaken, or at least northern Italy, somewhere in Lombardy. So it would make sense. All these Italians are coming over. They're like, hey, man, we are going to have panettone for Christmas. I don't care where we are. This is going to happen. And it looks like that tradition is very strong in Peru.
I mean, it's so strong that when you walk into the supermarket, starting that first week in December, they've cleared shelves coming into the entrance. They're just shelves of different types of panettone, like different types, different models, some with orange, some with different, embellishments, different sizes. It is a whole vibe, panettone, during Christmas and in December in Peru. Yes. Important staple.
You mentioned finishing off with the hot chocolate. Would I get a little shot of something in my hot chocolate if I wanted it?
I mean, there are those that do that as well, but generally it comes down to the champagne toast at midnight, almost like New Year's, right?
Cool.
So that's those are the traditions that I've seen or been involved in. Generally at midnight, that's kind of what it looks like. Yeah, but when after dinner as a digestif, a lot of people have pisco, a little shot of aromatic piscos. Your non-aromatic piscos are going to be used for cocktails. So at this time, you just get a really high quality aromatic pisco, and you just kind of sip on that, bring in the Christmas spirit.
Nice. When do the kids open their presents? Do they do it on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or Epiphany, some other day? I don't know.
The kids are up until midnight.
My God.
Have dinner late. Yes, you eat, and then you got to keep them up until midnight because Santa's not coming before then. And then at midnight, the fireworks go off, all the presents appear, out of the chimney. And then, that's when the kids open their presents. So even when they're really little, it's every generation is involved kind of thing, from the babies to the oldest members of the family. I mean, everyone is around, and midnight is when that part of the festivities are kicked off. And then usually on the 25th, a lot of people go to the beach in the morning, or they'll meet up for lunch to finish. If there are any leftovers, that's when they would be polished off the next day on the 25th around lunch, like a late family lunch kind of is the deal. That's what that looks like. Yeah, you got to sleep in a little bit. We've all been opening presents at midnight, the party wraps around 2. So sleep in and go for a late lunch. Yeah.
Going to the beach on Christmas Day. That is so cool. I never would have dreamed of that growing up in Chicago, I'll tell you.
Right.
I'll bet you never thought of it growing up in Kansas either.
No, not at all. And when my parents came and visited, and they're like, okay, what's the plan today? I mean, they were probably shocked by a couple things. One, that, we're going to go to the beach in the morning, hang out, have some ceviche and like a pisco sour on the beach. And then we'll go over to the family's house for dinner around 9:30, 10. And they're like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, PM? And I was like, well, yeah, PM. Like, but we got to make it till midnight. And they're like, really, really? And I'm like, yeah, really, really. That's, part of the fun. And they were troopers. They did really well. They still talk about that. That was years ago. And it was such an experience for them because it was just celebrating it. There's something so familiar about all of the festivities, the family time, even the menu and the spread, but the way it's celebrated, it's different. So it lends itself to a really fun new experience, for them and anyone who hasn't celebrated like that.
Okay, that's the delightful Samantha Lewis and Panettone in Peru. Who would have thought? You can find out more about Lima and her tours at limagourmetcompany.com. And Granier Lawler just launched several new tours in Ireland. You can check them out at flavortrails.ie, and flavor is spelled Flavor. Joseph Rosendo's website is josephrodendo.com, and check out John's Liquid History Tours at liquidhistorytours.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're ringing in the new year in Naples, in Denmark, in New Zealand, in Edinburgh, in Thailand, and in Ireland. Don't miss that. Until then, there's more foodie travel at destinationeatdrink.com. And speaking of Christmas, my latest video is about a great Christmas market in Ghent, Belgium. Watch that to see me eat snowballs and noses. Just click on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. And you can download my Foodie Travel Guide ebooks. They make a great Christmas gift. If someone on your list loves travel and food, you can pick up one of the 30-plus guides to places in Spain, Italy, Portugal, Belgium, Malta, and much, much more. The latest one is to Puglia, with full guides to the Italian cities of Lecce, Monopoli, Trane, and one of my favorite foodie cities of all, Bari, plus much, much more. Get that for yourself or someone on your list for a very special price at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink, and thank you very much. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.